Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. Now, I had promised to do a video comparing Bernie and Tulsi and which one is further to the left. I have made this statement a number of times that Tulsi is further to the left of Bernie, and people want to argue with this, but they're not even looking at policies. They're not looking at actions. They're just following talking points. So let's take a look at some of this. And I had to re-record this. It's a little bit, I made it a little bit too long the first time. Now, as you can see, I have Tulsi's policy page and Bernie's policy page pulled up. You can pull these up for yourself so that I don't have to go through all of them for you and do your own comparison. If you look at these, they agree on virtually every point. Until they get to the bottom line here. So I'm going to go with Tulsi's first. All right, I think it's important for the sake of our country's national security to keep the American people safe and in the pursuit of peace for our president and commander-in-chief to have the courage to meet with leaders of other countries, whether they be adversaries or potential adversaries, in order to achieve peace and security. This is the key word here. This is the key passage here. To meet with leaders of other countries, whether they be adversaries or potential adversaries. Tulsi has already demonstrated that she is willing to meet with leaders of other countries that we do not agree with. That is called diplomacy. That is not treason. That is diplomacy. Think about how right-wingers and left-wingers, or liberals and conservatives, talk to each other. As long as you remain in your own echo chamber, you don't solve any problems. If you have a problem with someone, you either fight it out or you talk it out. As long as we keep fighting it out, we're going to keep spending money to fight it out. All right? And that money and that amount keeps on going up, and we keep on winding up with more and more conflicts. All right, so here's what Bernie has to say. He says, we will work with pro-democracy forces around the world to build societies that work for and protect all people. In the United States, Europe, and elsewhere, democracy is under threat by forces of intolerance, corruption, and authoritarianism. This is a problem. Work with pro-democracy forces. That means he's only going to talk with people that we already agree with. That's all it means. It doesn't mean anything else. That means he is not going to talk to people that we don't agree with. Think about what Bernie has done or suggested. Where Venezuela is concerned. Has he tried talking to Maduro? No. He talks about forcing Venezuela to hold another election. Has he met with Assad? No. Has he met with anyone? Has he talked about meeting with anyone that we do not agree with? No, he hasn't. Period. He hasn't. And that is absolutely mandatory. If we want peace, we have to talk our problems out. You don't achieve peace by force. We've learned this. 18 years in Afghanistan, 16 years in Iraq, 4 or 5 years in Syria. We're bombing 7 countries. We've got troops in over 50 and 50 of 54 African nations. We're at increased tensions with Russia, increased tensions with China, increased tensions with North Korea, increased tensions with Iran, increased tensions with Venezuela. So how's that working? It's not working. You either sit down and you talk, or you just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Now, a big thing where people say that they don't support Tulsi as they claim that she does not support universal health care. She absolutely supports universal health care. But she is very honest about it. If you look at other countries in the world who have universal health care, every one of them has some form of a role for private insurance. This is a fact. If you look into universal health care in other countries, every country has some form of supplemental insurance. Every one of them. No exceptions. None. Period. What this means is that universal health care would meet your basic medical needs. And then there's a role for supplemental health care. Okay, fine. If you absolutely leave the insurance companies out of the loop, then face it, you will cost tens or hundreds of thousands of jobs and possibly cause a massive stock market crash. Just all by itself. And if you want to keep any form of capitalism, then, this is absolutely necessary. And this society is not ready for Marxist socialism. We are not ready for it. That would cause an absolute civil war. And so, before we can ever talk about, utilizing universal health care, we have to address the problem of warfare. That is the excuse that is being used for not utilizing universal health care. How are we going to pay for universal health care when we've got to buy all these bombs? Well, when do we stop buying the bombs? The answer is we don't. The war is not meant to be won, it is meant to be continuous. George Orwell. We've been promised over and over again that we would pull out of Afghanistan, pull out of Syria, pull out of Iraq. And how long has that been going on? And what steps are being taken? Well, first we've got to buy more bombs. It's not going to work. Tulsi says that she will engage in diplomacy to end the wars that we're in, talk with leaders that we do not agree with to achieve that end. And that is the only way it's going to happen. And then take the money that we're not spending on warfare and spend it on universal health care, spend it on infrastructure, spend it on social support programs that actually create domestic jobs. This makes sense. If we're not addressing the warfare issue first, absolutely first, then all we're going to do is wind up in a nuclear confrontation or global warfare. What good is your universal health care going to do if you're a pile of radioactive ash? Start paying attention to what is being said. Start paying attention to what is not being said. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. Work with pro-democracy forces. What? Democracy is under threat by forces of intolerance, corruption, and authoritarianism. Who's causing that threat? This is Bernie pushing Russiagate. This is Bernie pushing Russiagate. Our threat to democracy isn't happening from outside the country. It's happening from the corporate structure that is ruling us, destroying us, driving us further into debt, buying our elections, taking away our right to protest. As long as we're still doing this, you're not going to get universal health care. You're not going to get election reform. Who is the only person in the Democratic Party who stood up against election fraud in 2016. Tulsi Gabbard. She stepped down from the board of the DNC, from vice chair of the DNC, to protest against election fraud in the primary in 2016. Bernie has never said a single word about it. Not once. He's still pushing Russiagate. He is still silent on election fraud. All of this places Tulsi far to the left of Bernie. So when you claim that Bernie is the furthest left, or he's the greatest hope, he's the only one that can beat Trump, that's funny. We heard that about Hillary in 2016, didn't we? There's people saying that Biden is the only one that can beat Trump, or Warren is the only one that can beat Trump. Tulsi is to the left of Bernie. Bernie is to the left of most of the Democratic Party. Everyone else, absolutely everyone else, is a move to the right, to continuing warfare and status quo. Start paying attention. Don't call yourself woke if you're not paying attention to what's behind the scenes. All right, so that's going to be it for today. And please pay attention, ask questions, demand answers. And I hope you have a good day.